one of the issues at the moment, I think, generally, is the rhetoric of the collective is rampant. The actual reality isn't happening. What's happening just now, instead of looking outwards, because of the economic and other pressures that folk are under, they're looking inwards. And what we need to do, despite the threats and pressures that we're all under, is look outwards to each other, form the partnerships that allow us to go forward, because there is strength in the collective. But in Aberdeen, poverty is rife. And in fact, if you're poor in a context of affluence, I think the impact on you as individuals is worse. It reinforces your poverty. But one of the issues is about rural poverty, which still is not getting its place on the policy agenda, in my view. And if you're poor in a rural community, it's exacerbated by difficulty in accessing services, access to transport, and so on. So in the northeast there, while there's a perception of affluence, there are real issues of poverty there. And CFINE fundamentally is underpinned by a mission to increase social justice and address equality issues. And that's our raison d'etre. It was fortuitous 2 years ago that through Esmee Fairbairn, in fact, I met Eric, and since then we've had a number of discussions, and today is part of the result of that, where we had a shared goal of trying to secure better prices of our produce, both to give our social customers more affordable prices, but on the enterprise side, to increase our margins and make us more competitive and therefore increase our customer base. But we've got four main aims. The first is to improve health and well-being of the individual and the community. The second is to contribute to community regeneration. The third, to increase employability. And the fourth, to create employment. But 80% of our employees for us have been recruited from our priority communities. So they're from the unemployed register, they're from people with mental health or substance abuse issues, they're from the regeneration areas. Is that a term you use in this country that I'm in just now? But the regeneration areas. So we deliberately set out to employ people from our priority communities. And as I say, 80% of our employees are from there. And last month we sold between £55,000 and £60,000 in the month, and it's growing all the time. We're fortunate with the oil sector. They would be our main enterprise customer. Our biggest company is £5,000 to £6,000 a month now. At the end of the day, the premise and why we're here today is that for CFINE, Community Food Initiatives North East, the key plank of our sustainability strategy, we've got a number of other things in place now, the key plank that we have still to put in place is through coming together, buying together, increasing our purchasing power, we can get produce cheaper. Because the only way that we can secure our future, in my view now, because the grants position has changed so radically, is by generating our own income through enterprise trading. Is the grants culture is still alive in the voluntary sector. There is still a mentality which says that the voluntary sector should be funded by grants. Now that may be true. That may be a position that I'd be sympathetic to. The reality is that grants no longer will sustain most of the organisations in the voluntary sector. And therefore we've got to take ownership of our own destiny. My view is that's through enterprise trading. And my argument would be that if we're serious about the poverty agenda, then there's a moral imperative on us to go the enterprise road to secure our future so that we continue to contribute to addressing poverty, which to be clear is going to get a lot worse over the next few years. But sourcing local produce, and can I say for me, my position is this on local. Ideally we buy from the northeast of Scotland, that's number one. If we can't do that, we buy in Scotland. If we can't do that, we buy in the UK. And if we can't do that, like bananas, which we don't grow in the northeast of Scotland, then we buy from out with the UK. If we're buying out with the UK, or indeed in the UK, our position would be that we want to buy as close directly from the grower as we can, so that the trade is as fair as possible. So one, identifying the sources of produce, and then two, the logistics to make that happen. But one of the reasons we're here in London is, from the outset, we wanted to make a statement that we want to be in partnership with our colleagues in England I want to reinforce that CFINE is a charity and social enterprise. The only reason we trade commercially through our enterprise company is to be able to deliver and grow our social outcomes and remit. There's no other reason for us to trade commercially. It's simply to secure that anti-poverty work that we do. And for us, fundamentally, it's about making vulnerable people less vulnerable, it's about making powerless people more powerful, and it's about making low-income groups better off. And can I just say, for me, as a social enterprise, these are non-negotiable principles on which we're based. And I think the social enterprise movement as a whole throughout the UK needs to have that at the heart of what it does. So, if we're serious about social justice, if we're serious about the equality agenda, I think we need to work together. I think we need to go beyond the rhetoric and move to the reality of that and start delivering on some of the objectives we've got and together to the future. Thank you.